It made it 10 times harder to be receptive to Malcolm's story when we're sitting here questioning, well, what part was Malcolm the character and what part was Sam Levinson the director? What's up, guys? It's Sophie. First things first, I'm not a film critic, so I need that expectation to be promptly removed before we continue this video. So yesterday the movie Malcom Marie came out, starring Zendaya and John David Washington. I watched it yesterday morning and I wanted to get this video up like right away and be one of like the first people to post the review, but I allowed myself to spend the rest of yesterday like thinking about this movie. I actually watched it a second time because I was writing notes on like what I wanted to talk about in this video. I was also gonna read reviews on this movie beforehand, but then I made the conscious decision not to, and I'm actually not even gonna read any until I finish this video because my subconscious is so fucking weak and easily influenced. Just reading reviews by actual renowned film critics who, let's face it, definitely have the same process of logic making behind their opinions as you and I do, but with enough pretentiousness and like an accredited film school next to their name on the article, that's enough to trick my subconscious into changing my genuine thoughts on this film. That being said, if you don't agree with anything that I think about this film, that's real tough. I mean, so let's get into it. Malcom Marie follows the relationship of movie director Malcolm, a film director who just made his first big break at a movie premiere and is coming home from that event with his girlfriend Marie, who we end up finding later that the movie Malcolm wrote is about. The entire film takes place in their big ass home that's the one set for the entire movie, and the conflict has already begun before the movie even begins. Malcolm forgot to thank Marie during his speech, even though he thanked a bunch of other people, and even though he essentially wrote this movie about her story and like what she went through. And that's when we see like their entire relationship begin to unravel with this fight, or I guess like through the multiple fights that they have during the movie. Through the entire film there's this pattern of what we think is the resolution, and then something triggers it, and then these niggas are fighting again. And bitch, I thought I started fights fast in relationships. Marie's on some different shit. So we basically see the entirety of their relationship play out in the form of multiple arguments. That's the best summary that I can come up with. So let's get into my review. Initial thoughts right off the bat. Just real quick, I would like to address this soundtrack because the second I heard Little Sense in the beginning of the movie, I was like, bitch, I know that they're gonna like come through with some good ass music in this film. Number two, bro. This nigga Malcolm takes mad low blows at this woman and her whole being and her whole character like so many times. I wrote that down like as I was watching. Not me taking notes as I'm watching the movie, but that character trait just like made it so much harder for me to like root for them, because I was like, bro, let a nigga talk to me like that and he's single. But then I remember that that's kind of the whole point, like these narratives are not written for anybody but Malcom and Marie. And then I also know that that was like an intentional choice too, because she did clock him on that later in the film, how like he revels in every single point that he makes and just makes it so fucking personal. He wasn't even talking to me and I felt so hurt. And I think a huge part of what made 2 hours of a couple fighting in their home watchable and like entertaining is honestly just how brilliant Zendaya and John David Washington's performances were. There's really not much that I can say about that. I just was a huge fan of both of their performances, and I hope that at least one, if not both of them, gets an Academy Award for their performances alone. I also just wanted to comment on the age gap topic that I know was kind of controversial before the movie even came out. John David Washington is 12 years older than Zendaya. I don't know if choosing an actor that was significantly older was intentional, because Malcolm is significantly older than Marie. I also had to search up Zendaya's age at first because for some reason I thought that she had like just entered her 20s. I know that that's not logistical because she's obviously not like a year older than me, but for some reason I thought that she was just like in her very early 20s. But I think that's because I forgot that I'm about to be 20. So like, yeah. Zendaya is 24. He's 36. Personally, I saw no issue. If 24 is not completely grown, then there are a lot of other celebrities that we should be side-eyeing right now. 24 is grown, not old, because there's a difference. So what I really did want to comment on this video was Sam Levinson. Before I go on to say the only real criticism that I had with this film, I will say this: I loved it. I fucked with it. Personally, I fucked with it. Like, I really did like Malcom and Marie. I love the actors that were chosen. I think that they both did a phenomenal job. I was like really in my feelings the entire way through because their performances were just so genuine. I loved how it was filmed. I loved how it was edited. Like, I really fucked with that movie. However, it made it 10 times harder to be receptive to Malcom's story when we're sitting here questioning, well, what part was Malcom the character and what part was Sam Levinson the director? If you watch this movie without having any idea who Sam Levinson was, then you probably like wouldn't even have thought of this, and rightfully so, because it wouldn't have mattered. Sam Levinson is the writer and director of Malcom and Marie, and he's also the creator of Euphoria. It was really no secret that Malcom's storyline and personal conflict in regards to his work was written based off of Sam Levinson, the director himself. But that was not even the problem that I had. What I found weird was that to express Levinson's personal frustration of the world of Hollywood film and media critics, he does it from the perspective of a black man complaining that media critics immediately turn his work into something political because he's black. This has never happened to Sam Levinson for obvious reasons. Malcom has two very memorable monologues, one in the beginning of the film when he's complaining to Marie about how predominantly white media treats him as a black director, and then he goes on that long rant when his first review comes out by the white Hollywood Reporter writer. He's talking for like, I think 5 or 6 minutes. The second time that I watched the film was when I felt myself following the dialogue entirely, and it made sense, but it was also kind of ironic because that same exact society of white Hollywood that Malcom feels he kind of needs to get the approval of to be considered more than just another black director is the same society of white Hollywood that Sam Levinson literally contributes to as a white director. And Malcom also makes this point that the identity of the director should not influence the film critique, because he argues that authenticity is not key, which Marie later proves to be pretty untrue. It almost sounded like justification of what Sam Levinson did with Malcom and Marie, tried to tell like the narrative of a black director complaining about the same exact white Hollywood that Sam Levinson is actively contributing to. I just think that those who knew Sam Levinson before Malcom and Marie came out may have felt that the themes on race were a little bit unauthentic by nature. And I just want to clarify it. The part that feels inauthentic is not a white director merely writing about blackness. It's using a black narrative as a means to express your own personal white frustration over a bad review. That's what it was for me. Malcom was obviously not an individualized, made-up character, and it was made painfully obvious at some points in Malcom's dialogue that Levinson was expressing his own frustration about his own personal career. Overall, I think that it was an excellent film, and I just want to say that the one like criticism that I had, I don't think that that makes it a bad film. I still thought that it was great, but that's really just something that I noticed and that I felt was just a little bit strange. A little bit. It's like basically nighttime, so I'm going to stop filming because it probably looks like ass in here right now. If you watch Malcom and Marie, let me know what you thought of it down below. With that being said, I'm gonna go. I love you all very, very much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.